December 1941. Over the Pacific, a new fighter appears, the Mitsubishi A6M Zero. It's fast, agile, and deadly, leaving Allied pilots stunned as it outclimbs and outturns everything they send up. For a while it seems unstoppable, but in less than 2 years the Zero goes from feared hunter to easy target. How did the Pacific's most dominant fighter become obsolete so quickly? Today we'll break down the 8 key factors that turned this legend of the skies from predator to prey. Our story begins not with engineering, but with espionage and analysis. In July 1942, something extraordinary happens on a remote Alaskan island. A nearly intact Zero crash lands on a Kootenai island after its pilot is killed. American forces recover it, ship it back to San Diego, and what happens next changes everything. Engineers and test pilots dissect this machine like surgeons examining a marvel. They fly it, they push it, they find its limits. And what they discover is both impressive and revealing. The Zero can indeed outturn any American fighter. Its legendary maneuverability isn't mythology, but it achieves this through a dangerous trade-off. It's light, dangerously light. No armor plating, no self-sealing fuel tanks. The kind of lightness that makes you a dancer in a dogfight but a sitting duck when hit. Intelligence officers compile detailed reports. They measure its roll rate, excellent at low speeds, but it stiffens dramatically above 300 miles per hour. They test its dive performance, poor, with controls becoming sluggish and heavy. They document its structural limitations. The airframe shudders under high-G maneuvers that American planes can handle easily. This information floods through Allied squadrons like wildfire. Suddenly, we're not fighting a myth anymore. We're fighting an aircraft with known weaknesses, documented limitations, and exploitable flaws. Pilots receive briefings. Don't dogfight the Zero at low speeds. Use your speed. Use your dive performance. Hit and run. The psychological advantage the Zero held, that aura of invincibility, evaporates. But intelligence alone doesn't win wars. It gives us the blueprint. Now we need the tools to exploit it. Enter the F6F Hellcat. If the Zero is a samurai sword, elegant, deadly, but fragile, the Hellcat is a sledgehammer wrapped in armor plating, and it's exactly what we need. Grumman's designers don't try to outmaneuver the Zero. They've read the intelligence reports. They know that's a losing game. Instead, they build something better, a fighter that can absorb punishment and dish it out harder. The Hellcat rolls off production lines in 1943 with a powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine churning out 2,000 horsepower. It's fast, 380 miles per hour in level flight. It dives like a meteor, and crucially, it can take a beating. Pilot testimonies from 1943 and 44 tell the same story over and over. I took hits that would have shredded a Zero. My Hellcat brought me home. Self-sealing fuel tanks mean that when rounds pierce the wings, the rubber coating swells and plugs the holes. Armor plating behind the pilot's seat stops bullets that would have killed Zero pilots. The cockpit itself is designed with visibility and ergonomics in mind. Pilots can fight longer without fatigue. But here's what really matters. The Hellcat is produced in staggering numbers. Over 12,000 are built during the war. For every Zero that Japan struggles to replace, we're putting 3, 4, 5 Hellcats in the sky. The math becomes overwhelming. Even if Japanese pilots are skilled, and many are, they're facing fresh American pilots in superior machines, often outnumbered 3 or 4 to 1. The kill ratio tells the story. Hellcats achieve a 19-to-1 kill-to-loss ratio against Japanese aircraft. The Zero, once the hunter, is now the hunted, and we're just getting started. While the Hellcat slugs it out in the carrier battles, another beast enters the theater, the F-4U Corsair. If you've ever seen that distinctive gull-wing design, you've glimpsed one of the most fearsome fighters of the war, and for Zero pilots, it represents a nightmare evolution of American aviation. The Corsair pushes boundaries the Zero can't even approach. Maximum speed, over 400 miles per hour. That same Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, refined and optimized. 4.50 caliber machine guns in each wing. 8 total, pouring out a devastating stream of fire. When a Corsair opens up, it doesn't just damage aircraft, it disintegrates them. Initially, the Navy considers the Corsair too difficult to land on carriers. That long nose obstructs visibility during approach. So it goes to the Marines, operating from land bases in the Pacific Islands we're recapturing. And there, it becomes legendary. Marine squadrons in Corsairs tear through Japanese formations like sharks through sardines. The Corsair embodies everything the Zero isn't. It's heavy. Over 14,000 pounds fully loaded compared to the Zero's 6,000. It's powerful, it's fast, it can dive away from any threat and climb back up before the Zero can follow. Japanese pilots realize quickly, if a Corsair doesn't want to fight on your terms, there's nothing you can do about it. One Marine pilot describes it perfectly. The Zero wants to waltz. We're here to sprint, punch, and sprint away. And that tactical doctrine, boom and zoom, we call it, plays perfectly to the Corsair's strengths and the Zero's weaknesses. Combined with the Hellcat, we now have 2 aircraft that can dominate the Zero in different roles, different scenarios, different altitudes. The noose is tightening. But even the best aircraft are useless if they can't reach the fight. And here's where Japan faces a problem that no amount of pilot skill can overcome: geography. As we push westward across the Pacific, from Guadalcanal to the Marianas to the Philippines, our bombers need to strike targets hundreds of miles from their bases. This means fighters need range, endurance, the ability to escort bombers on long missions and still have fuel to fight. The Zero actually excels at this initially. Its lightweight design gives it excellent range, often over 1,000 miles with external tanks. But there's a catch. That range comes at the cost of everything else. No armor, no power, no durability. American engineers take a different approach. They build fighters with internal fuel capacity and conformal external tanks that can be dropped before combat. The P-38 Lightning, operating from land bases, can escort bombers all the way to Tokyo and back. The Hellcat carries enough fuel to patrol for hours over carrier task forces. Even the Corsair, with its massive engine, gets impressive range through careful fuel management. Meanwhile, Japan's strategic situation is collapsing. As we capture island after island, their fighters have nowhere to stage from. They're forced to fly longer and longer missions from distant bases, arriving over the battlefield low on fuel, already exhausted, facing fresh American fighters that just launched from carriers right offshore. The Pacific Ocean itself becomes our ally. Every mile we push westward stretches Japan's logistics thinner while consolidating ours. The Zero, once perfectly suited for short-range interceptions and carrier operations, finds itself mismatched for the evolving campaign. Geography doesn't care about maneuverability, and we're weaponizing every nautical mile. Here's the brutal truth that no tactical brilliance can overcome. Japan is losing the production war catastrophically, and the numbers are staggering. In 1943, Japan produces approximately 16,000 aircraft of all types. That same year, the United States produces 85,000. By 1944, we're building over 96,000 aircraft, while Japan manages barely 28,000. The disparity isn't just significant, it's civilization ending for their air force. But it gets worse. Those raw numbers don't tell the whole story. Many Japanese aircraft rolling off production lines in 1944 and 45 are inferior to those built in 1942. Why? Because we're destroying their industrial capacity. We're sinking merchant ships carrying strategic materials. Aluminum becomes scarce, so they substitute with inferior alloys. Engine production quality declines. Quality control suffers. Meanwhile, American aircraft improve with each production batch. We're incorporating combat lessons in real time. Field modifications become factory standards. The Hellcat that rolls off the line in 1945 is meaningfully better than its 1943 predecessor. Better gun sight, improved engine, refined aerodynamics. The Zero gets minor updates, but nothing fundamental changes. They can't afford to retool factories for a comprehensive redesign. They can't spare the engineering resources. They try variants. The A6M5, A6M6, but these are refinements, not revolutions. You're still flying an aircraft designed with 1940 priorities into a 1944 battlefield. And here's perhaps the cruelest irony. Even when Japan designs excellent replacement aircraft, the N1K Shiden, the J2M Raiden, they can't produce them in meaningful numbers. The industrial infrastructure isn't there. The resources aren't there. The time isn't there. Every Zero lost becomes harder to replace. Every American fighter lost is replaced within weeks, often days. Attrition warfare demands industrial depth, and Japan simply doesn't have it. But let's talk about the human element, because this is where the story becomes truly tragic. In 1941 and early 1942, Japanese naval aviators are among the best trained pilots in the world. Many have combat experience from China. They've trained for years, they're exceptional, and then we start killing them. The problem with elite pilots is that they take years to train and seconds to kill. Japan's pilot training program, rigorous as it was, can't keep pace with attrition. Every experienced pilot shot down takes thousands of hours of institutional knowledge with him, and we're shooting them down faster than Japan can train replacements. By mid-1943, Japanese pilot quality begins declining noticeably. Training programs get compressed from years to months. Flight hours before combat drop from thousands to hundreds, then hundreds to dozens. New pilots arrive at frontline units barely able to fly, let alone fight. And they're facing American pilots who are increasingly veterans themselves. American training pipelines, meanwhile, are producing pilots by the thousands. We have the fuel for training flights. We have the aircraft to practice in. We have the time to properly prepare pilots before throwing them into combat. Many American pilots in 1944 have more training hours than Japanese veterans who've been flying since 1941. There's a recorded radio intercept from 1944 where a Japanese squadron leader tells his new pilots during a battle, "Just try to survive. Avoid combat if you can." That's not tactical doctrine. That's desperation. When your strategy becomes "don't die," you've already lost. The Zero, which requires finesse and skill to maximize its advantages, becomes increasingly piloted by novices who don't know how to exploit those advantages. An experienced pilot can make a Zero dance. A rookie in a Zero is just a fragile target in an increasingly hostile sky. Intelligence gave us knowledge, new aircraft gave us tools, but tactics gave us victory, and the evolution of Allied tactical doctrine against the Zero is a masterclass in adaptive warfare. Early encounters are disasters. Pilots try to dogfight Zeros at low altitude and low speed, exactly where the Zero dominates. They turn when they should run. They fight alone when they should fight as teams. The learning curve is steep and written in blood, but we learn. Commander John "Jimmy" Thatch develops the Thatch Weave, a mutual defense tactic where pairs of fighters weave back and forth, covering each other. When a Zero latches onto one fighter, his wingman is positioned to shoot the Zero off his tail. Simple, effective, deadly. We develop boom and zoom tactics, dive from altitude, make one high-speed pass, then climb back up using superior engine power. Never turn, never slow down, never give the Zero the fight it wants. If the Zero tries to follow us up, it stalls out. If it dives after us, our aircraft handles the dive better and we pull away. Squadron tactics evolve. We stop flying solo missions. Fighter sweeps become coordinated attacks with altitude advantage, numerical superiority, and predetermined engagement rules. Never dogfight below 10,000 feet becomes doctrine, not suggestion. Radio discipline improves. We start sharing information in real time during battles. 2 Zeros at your 6 o'clock high saves lives. Squadron leaders coordinate attacks, directing fresh fighters toward engaged enemies, creating local numerical superiority even when overall numbers are equal. The Zero's advantages, turn radius, low-speed handling, become irrelevant when we refuse to fight on those terms. It's like bringing a fencing foil to a boxing match where your opponent refuses to fence. The weapon is still excellent. The context has shifted. Let's talk about something less glamorous but absolutely critical: the ability to get shot and survive. Because this, more than anything else, might explain why the Zero falls from dominance so completely. Aircraft design involves trade-offs. Every pound of armor is a pound not available for fuel, weapons, or performance. Japanese designers made a choice: maximize performance by minimizing protection. The Zero has essentially no armor plating and uses standard fuel tanks that erupt into flames when hit. American designers made the opposite choice: build survivability in from the beginning. And combat proves them right again and again. A Zero hit by a single .50 caliber round in the wing might lose that wing due to fuel fire. The same hit on a Hellcat might not even be noticed by the pilot. Self-sealing fuel tanks mean that punctures seal themselves. Armor plating stops rounds that would penetrate the Zero's thin skin. Even the cockpit glass is thicker and more resistant. Pilot testimonies are chilling. Japanese pilots describe seeing their wingmen explode from single hits. American pilots describe landing aircraft with dozens of holes, patching them up, and flying the next day. One Corsair returned to base with over 150 bullet holes. The pilot was injured but alive. The aircraft flew again after repairs. This survivability advantage compounds over time. An American pilot who gets shot down but survives is rescued by submarine or float plane, returned to his unit, and flies again. He's now a veteran with combat experience. A Japanese pilot shot down over open ocean simply dies. That experience is lost forever. The psychological impact is enormous. American pilots grow confident knowing their aircraft can take hits. Japanese pilots grow desperate knowing any hit might be fatal. Confidence affects performance. Desperation leads to mistakes. By 1944, Zero pilots are flying aircraft that feel like death traps. Every engagement might be their last. Meanwhile, American pilots trust their aircraft to bring them home. That trust translates into aggressive tactics, willingness to press attacks, and ultimately, victory. In just a few short years, the Zero went from feared legend to outdated fighter, not because it suddenly became bad, but because the war moved faster than Japan could adapt. Better tactics, stronger planes, industrial power, and fresh pilots all combined to push it aside. The big takeaway? No matter how good something is today, it won't stay on top without change. Even the most advanced technology can become history if it doesn't evolve. If you enjoyed this look back at forgotten aviation history, hit subscribe and join us for more untold stories of aircraft and battles that shaped the world. Until next time, keep looking up.